Hello, welcome back to Orphan. So it's just been 3 days since the announcement of the latest Warhammer Quest, the Cursed City. You'd be forgiven for thinking that we received an abundance of information, but realistically it's not that much. So what have we had? So a trailer with 4 images on it, a little discussion on the live stream, but it didn't give us anything more than what they put on the website at the same time. We've had a brief article today, which we'll get onto in a minute, and we've had the map on the small website that's got some cool details on it. Now, I put a short video out on Saturday which I called Everything We Know About the Cursed City, or that was everything I knew by that point. But since then the internet has been ablaze with linking information and tying together all of the individual pieces that have gone so far. So what I've done is I've compiled what I can see to be the most interesting stuff that I've seen. I've done a little bit of digging myself, which I've added to it. But basically in this update today, we're going to talk about Jensen Derek. We're going to look at who these guys are on the map, or who they could potentially be. We're going to look at this guy and how he could be potentially linked to the game. And then we'll have a little bit of a speculation on the heroes and who they could be. Right, so let's get started with Jensen Derek. So he's a former witch hunter of the Azir. He carries with him the Ardent Blade. Now the Ardent Blade was also carried in 40k by Celestine the Living Saint, and Derek calls his weapon Judgment. Celestine is said to wield the Emperor's Judgment, so there is some really strong crossover for this weapon. Now I'm not suggesting it is exactly the same blade, but I do like it when sometimes Age of Sigmar and 40k flip things round in this way. And I think it's really no coincidence at all that he would carry the weapon of a living saint given his profession. His stakes are made from Axian firewood. Axi is known as the realm of fire, and it's under the control of Khorne, the chaos god. It's an intensely hot realm with sulphurous fumes and hot gusting winds. It's been called the embodiment of fire, aggression, ambition, passion and energy. These stakes burst into flames when they pierce the flesh of the undead. Now if we compare his model to those of the previous witch hunters that have been released in the past, there isn't a great deal of difference other than the Ardent Blade is new obviously, and he carries a rifle instead of a pistol, but both carried stakes and they both fired ranged weapons. Now one of the reasons I wanted to take a look back at this model as well is I wanted to do a comparison against the model which I believe is going to be part of this game. Now this little snippet you can see here is part of that Warhammer video showing us the new models for 2020-21, and this is the little snippet that comes directly after that early teaser for Jensen Derek. Now it is a real reach, and I'm thinking that this cape is very close to the colour of the other witch hunters of Azir. Now I'm not too worried about it actually being correct or anything like that, but I think it'd be a really cool turn for the game if perhaps they could have an ex-witch hunter in there as one of the enemies. So maybe a witch hunter that's been turned into a vampire or something like that. Initially I thought that this might have been an orc witch hunter because of the green flesh, but I think this is just going to be an undead model. Now the other reason why I'd really like this to be an undead witch hunter is because we've got that narrative part about Jensen Derek being banished from the witch hunters of the Azir, and I think there'd be a really cool backstory there, you know, some sort of a mission gone wrong, you know, one of the witch hunters getting turned and that kind of thing, and potentially linking into this. Perhaps Wolf is a former witch hunter or something like that. Also have to forgive me because this model may not even make it to the Cursed City, it might have nothing to do with it whatsoever, but I thought that it was worth having a look at it just for speculation's sake. Right, now let's move on to these guys. So these guys are on either side of the map on the Cursed City website. And for a few of them, there's also some hints of them being in the trailer as well. So let's just go through them from left to right. Okay, so this guy I think is some sort of skeleton commander. The actual image on the left doesn't show him as being a skeleton or anything like that. But if you compare it to the image on the right, there's some fairly compelling evidence to show that it could possibly be the same person. So as we can see here, they carry the same axe, they both have an eye patch, they both carry a dagger, and they both carry a separate sword. And if you zoom in and look at the armour on the knee, there's also a very similar sort of pattern to that as well. So just before we go on to the other 3, this is back on the website, and so we've got the Overlords of Orphan. So I believe that that those guys on the map are 4 of the Overlords and the 5th one is the Wolf. Okay, so he's the first one and I think he's in control of skeletons. Next up is this guy. Now I really don't have much on this guy at all, except to say I think he's a necromancer, so I think he will be able to bring skeletons and zombies back from the dead and potentially vampires. Now next up is this guy. I'm a little bit stumped on who he potentially rules. I think it's vampires, but I'm not sure. And the only thing that makes me think it might not be is for this image in the middle. Now just going back slightly, so the image on either side of the middle, we've got, I think, potentially the same character. Now the one on the right, that is him next to the wolf's throne. Now the reason I think that they are the same is just because he appears on that map and because of that crazy haircut. Now, I don't think the guy in the middle is the same boss. I don't think they're the same person, but I think that he is one of his followers. And the reason I think that is because there's again some more similarities. So the shoulder piece on the armour is quite similar between the one on the right and the one in the middle. All 3 of those images have a fairly balmy haircut, and the one on the right and the one in the middle, they have exactly the same hilt on their sword. But other than that, I'm stumped, to be honest. I've been through all of the undead models that are in the Warhammer range, and there's only a few that have that sort of leg shape. So some of the Varangeist and that kind of thing have got it, but other than that, there isn't any. So I'm not sure if this guy is vampiric or not. He certainly looks it from the image on the left, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, if we think that the skeleton guy is obviously for skeletons, we think that the wolf is for vampire, we think that Gorslev, who we'll get onto in a second, is all about the zombies, and then we think that the necromancer is just about bringing various undead back to life. That does leave a gap in what this could potentially be, so I'm not sure, but I can't wait to find out. Now the last of our grim quartet is Gorslev the Gravekeeper. Now, he tends the crypts of Orphan Khan's corpse gardens, and we can see that on the map. He also appears in the trailer and on the map of the Cursed City. It appears that his speciality is burying his foes alive, and it also appears from his model that he likes to dig them up again. So this links him potentially with the undead within the trailer who have boards or graves stuck on their back. Some of them also appear to have some fencing and some railing stuck on their back as well, just the same as Gorslev does, so he's got 2 rails that stick out of his shoulders. And then that brings us to the heroes. So what have we got here? Now, it's very hard to say. We've obviously got a Sylvaneth there. He looks too small to be a Kurnoth hunter, but he does wield a bow. Potentially be them. We've obviously got a dwarf in there as well. Really had no idea about dwarfs, not sure who he could be. The big guy on the right has really got me stumped. Some people are saying that it's an ogre, but ogre are from the Destruction faction. I've racked my brains and I've been thinking about what other models it could be. Nothing else matches size-wise except for maybe a Croxagore, but the structure of the back and the head is all wrong for it to be that. So everything's telling me that it must be an ogre, but I really am not sure. In terms of other models that could potentially be part of this band of heroes, it would be nice to see some of the newer stuff in there. So maybe a Lumineth could be part of that warband, or potentially even something from Seraphon or something like that. It would be really cool to have like a Star Priest or something like that along with this group. But having said that, the idea of having an orc vampire hunter is really appealing to me. I think it'd be so cool to have something like that in the game. But between all of this and the video that I put out on Saturday, I'm pretty stumped for anything else. Have I missed anything that's really obvious? Have you got some theories on what some of this stuff is? If you have, please let me know in the comments, or better yet, meet me over on my Cursed City Facebook group. The link's in the description, and you can meet up with all us over there and start talking about the game right now. But what I intend to do is every time there's a piece of new information that comes out for this game, I'll be reporting about it on YouTube. So I'll be looking at that stuff and I'll be comparing the new news that comes out against all of the information that we've already got and trying to fill in the gaps. So if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing, and I will see you all very soon. Catch you later.